Welcome everyone to the 30-second Celebrity Synastry chart reading where I will be looking into Miley Cyrus and Nick Jonas. If you don't know me, hi, I'm Adeline. I look at the dynamic between two celebrities using astrology, specifically Synastry. For those new and returning, I take notes on a Synastry chart looking at the personal planet signs, aspects, and if birth times available, house overlays. I share these notes and add my extra insights and interpretations along the way. And of course, as always, leave your thoughts in the comments below and let's get a discussion going. So if that sounds good to you, like, subscribe, and keep on watching. Starting off with the sun, we have Miley's sun in Sagittarius and Nick's sun in Virgo. These are both mutable signs. They balance each other out, they work well together, but conflict easily occurs. Nick feels frustrated with Miley and Miley gets annoyed with Nick. Miley's sun in Nick's 4th house. There's a sense of familiarity. Nick trusts Miley deeply. Strong desire to live together. Nick feels secure around Miley. Miley feels they belong together. Miley is very protective of Nick and they are both committed to each other. Nick's sun in Miley's 5th house. They have creative and fun dates. Miley enjoys the adoration from Nick. Miley has a great love for Nick, potentially linked to why she's very protective of him. Desire to have children together. This is interesting. Like, there's a desire to live together, have children together. So it seems like when they were in a relationship, they really did see a sort of future with each other. So it seems like when they were together, they did really see or desired to have that sort of kind of future with each other. Nick defines beauty according to Miley, characterized by luck and pleasure. I assume this would be relating to, like, they were both child stars on Disney and Nickelodeon. It would probably relate to, like, because they were very lucky at a young age, and they definitely did come across as very lucky. Nick may be overlooking Miley's flaws, and Nick sees Miley as a source of pleasure. Nick's sun sextile Miley's moon. It's an easy friendship, a fulfilling relationship. There's natural compatibility. I see that. Like, I mean, besides them getting a bit annoyed and frustrated with each other, we haven't seen anything too bad otherwise. They're cooperative with each other, probably linking back to how they work well together. So probably, I assume they were pretty good, like, co-workers or co-stars in that sense. Nick depends on Miley's support and Miley trusts Nick's wisdom. There does seem to be a big, like, so far in this reading, trust does seem to be a big element. You know, they both are very, like, trusting, protective of each other. They really rely on each other in that way. Nick's sun sextile Miley's Mercury, similar interest. I really see that actually, because they were both, child actors who went on to become, adults in the music industry. They have an intellectual friendship, they are able to work together. We see again, they like to talk to each other, they resolve problems easily. They find it easy to share ideas together and they're very relaxed around each other. Nick wants to improve Miley and Nick values Miley's intelligence. Interesting, thus far I really feel like these were just both very good, like, colleagues. Like, I feel like they probably worked together really well and, like, really honed their crafts together very well together. Nick's sun sextile Miley's Mars. They motivate each other, they give each other space. They have different hobbies. Nick admires Miley's drive. And that's another thing in this relationship so far. Nick really admires and puts Miley on a pedestal. Can further the other goals, understandably so. They both give each other confidence. I see these things, I really feel like they were really great co-stars together. Giving each other confidence, helping each other improve. Participate in activities together. Because I know they were both, like, child actors. I don't know if they were actually in anything together as such. They're straightforward with each other. They tend to get annoyed with each other. We see again, neither feels blocked. Nick's sun trine Miley's Neptune. They're tolerant and forgiving. Nick strengthens Miley's ego. We did see how she enjoys the adoration. And we have been seeing a lot of how Nick does put Miley on a pedestal, really values her intelligence, doesn't really look at her flaws, attuned to each other's feelings, and Miley inspires Nick to be creative. Nick's sun sextile Miley's Pluto. There's a strong connection, they're more powerful together, they comfortably share secrets. I really see that. We've been seeing that sort of really strong trust element here. They're drawn to each other in a magnetic way. So now it's time for moon. So we have Miley's moon in Scorpio and Nick's moon in Taurus. These are both polarity sister signs and also fixed signs. Potential to become close. There's a strong magnetic connection we just saw. They need to learn to appreciate each other. I wonder if this could be related to them being annoyed and frustrated with each other. We'll see a bit more, hopefully, relating to this. Nick doesn't understand Miley's deep emotions. Both have a tendency to get possessive. Miley's moon in Nick's 4th house. Love-hate, they both have conflicting feelings. They both feel deeply bonded to each other. I assume this will be relating to like the whole co-star dynamic. Even though I haven't had that experience, I can imagine like that is a very unique place to be. And having other people in the same place as you, probably you would feel very deeply bonded to that person because you share an experience that no one else really had. They're competitive like siblings. Miley may feel like a parent to Nick. I mean, I could potentially see these with these last 2 points. Like competitive like siblings, I mean, they are both in the industry. They would be a bit naturally competitive, I assume. And also with Miley feeling like a parent to Nick. I'm not really sure about Nick's background and his way in the industry, but Miley did, have that nepotism background, she did kind of have a bit of a higher foot. So potentially this is why maybe she feels like a parent to Nick, because she may potentially have a bit more knowledge about the industry. Both feel they need to spend time apart. I believe we did see this before as well. Nick's moon in Miley's 12th house. There's a lack of trust. I wonder in what terms, because we did see that trust element very strongly before, so I'm not sure if this is just an outlier or maybe we'll see a bit more what it relates to. Nick feels that Miley is hiding something. Miley senses Nick's suspicions. There's no logical base for lack of trust and paranoia, and difficult for them to deal with wounded feelings. Just based off of this alone, I wonder, because from what I've been getting so far, like their dynamic, them together, I feel like it is just a very good like co-star friendship dynamic. But we have been seeing that Nick is, puts Miley on the pedestal essentially. And with this one, I wonder if potentially if Nick was like sort of just pining for Miley, had a bit of a crush on her that was not reciprocated by Miley. Just based off what we're going so far, I'm getting that vibe. Miley's moon is sextile Nick's Mercury. They have long conversations. They feel comfortable being open with each other. We see again, there's a good friendship and mutual understanding, which would relate back to like how they have a mutual understanding of their places in life. And, we keep seeing the friendship. They both like a busy environment. It really matches well. Value the other's opinions and advice. I'm really feeling that like just very good co-star dynamic. I'm really just feeling they just very like good friends and like they have that bond as sort of co-stars and colleagues. Miley's moon is sextile Nick's Jupiter. They have good fortune. We saw the luck element before, which makes sense. They're a popular couple. I assume so, like literally in the media. They have honest communication, likely for them to support charities. I'm not sure if they ever did that together as a couple potentially. Excessiveness could be an issue. That would make sense, just I believe like, because it was like when they were really young they were together, I believe, which would make sense. Like they're very young people with a lot of money. It makes sense. They have an intellectual understanding, we see again. Miley's moon conjunct Nick's Pluto. They work through past relationships together. I have to assume just with their age, I mean, potentially it could be other relationships just with the age they are. I'm going to lean towards potentially like family relationships or friendships they've had. Immense spiritual growth. It's not a superficial relationship. I really do see that. Like these two seem to just have a very like good bond together. Easy for them to talk about deeper and darker subjects. Miley may become needy of Nick. Nick may see Miley as too sensitive. I vaguely remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but I vaguely remember in the last reading we did with Nick where he put someone on a pedestal, but emotionally so he's not doing the greatest. Like he sees her as too sensitive and he gets a bit frustrated with her. He seems to have an issue with emotions, from what we see. That's a side comment. Strong mental connection. They subconsciously need each other. I mean, yeah, can make great wealth together, as we've been seeing, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did. They probably did. That's a fact. Immense passion keeps them together for a long time. I'm not sure how long they were together. So far, this is the only point we've seen when it comes to their longevity. Nick's moon trine Miley's Venus. Mutual appreciation. It's easy to compromise together. There's natural affection. They're supportive of each other during conflict. Again, with the support element. They appreciate art together and they're a social couple. We do keep seeing the element of like they're a social couple, they're a rich couple, which aligns perfectly. Nick's moon square Miley Saturn. Nick feels emotionally insecure. I want to see more on this because it's just what we've seen in the last reading with Nick and the information we're getting so far. He doesn't seem to be too comfortable with the emotions. Maybe because he's just insecure in that way. Possibility of an awkward relationship. Nick feels judged by Miley, and Miley sees Nick as needy and oversensitive, so they both see each other as too sensitive. But going back to my theory, it seems like Nick really was just pining on Miley. I do believe it was like a confirmed relationship they had, but I really feel in the beginning he was just really pining for Miley, and it was unreciprocated at first on Miley's end. Nick's moon trine Miley's Uranus. Both feel free to express themselves. Miley is more open around Nick. Ideas of unconventional domestic setup bring them together. Back with the whole like domestic desires and everything. Like in the beginning we saw they wanted to live together, have children together. Can cope with sudden changes together. There's a level of unpredictability. It would relate to their sort of lifestyles and careers. Miley feels safe around Nick and they enjoy talking about social issues, so we're seeing the humanitarian element again. I'm not sure if they did anything public together. Mutual friends may bring them together. That would not surprise me. They're in the same industry. Nick's moon trine Miley's Neptune. Nick picks up on Miley's needs. They inspire the other. Art is a shared interest. They sense each other's feelings. They share a sensitive and mystical worldview. It's a mystical meeting. They both uncover the other's blind spots. Now for the intermission. This video is brought to you by me, my Etsy store, Adeline the Astrologer. If you ever watch this and think, hey, I would like her to read my Synastry chart, well, I will. I do personalized Synastry readings on my Etsy store, both basic and detailed. The basic one is very simple to understand. It's not overwhelming at all. It's pretty good for those that are beginners to astrology, just getting the head around astrology, or just as a fun gift idea. The detailed one is just like what I do on my channel, just a lot of insight and interpretation on your chart. So if you are interested in that and everything else astrology and tarot related, readings and gifts, then definitely check out my Etsy store. Links are below. I'm always releasing new things, so definitely check it out if you're interested. You can even just favorite the store just to show your support for free. Thanks for listening, and let's get back to the reading. So now it's time for Mercury. We have Miley's Mercury in Scorpio and Nick's Mercury in Virgo. Conflict between Nick's realism and Miley's lack of it. Miley teaches Nick how to consider feelings. Miley finds Nick snobby and selfish. Nick is frustrated with Miley's impracticality. Miley's Mercury in Nick's 4th house. Nick's emotions are sensitive to Miley's words, so potentially why he feels emotionally insecure. Potentially Miley could be a bit more blunt, I don't know. Potentially with Miley's communication and words that really flares up his emotional insecurity. Both fit well in each other's lives. Of course they do. Nick can predict what Miley will say, so there is an element of Nick being very intuitive of Miley. Nick is comfortable with Miley, we keep seeing on both ends. Nick's Mercury in Miley's 5th house. Nick is like the sun to Miley. Nick makes Miley's day. There's easy communication. Both encourage the other, we see again, and it's not a boring relationship. Not surprisingly so. Their Mars signs are sextile to each other, so they enjoy conversations together. They're interested in similar subjects is repeated. They have interesting conversations going back to their intellectual bond. They have complementary thinking, and misunderstandings are unlikely. We honestly haven't seen too many misunderstandings as such. Miley's Mercury sextile Nick's Jupiter. Nick appreciates Miley's thoughts and ideas. There's open communication. It's a strong friendship. Business together is beneficial and there's an optimistic meeting. Nick often gives Miley the benefit of the doubt. I'm not surprised. Like, he seems to really view Miley on a pedestal. They love to laugh together and travel together. They intellectually stimulate each other, which is repeated. Nick's Mercury sextile Miley's Mars. Miley encourages Nick to put his thoughts into action. There's healthy competitiveness. I assume this will be going back to how they're competitive like siblings, which would be considered healthy in the industry they're in. They work well together. Miley takes things too personally, which would be probably going back to why Nick does see Miley as being a bit too sensitive. They inspire each other to improve themselves. Nick's Mercury, sextile Miley's Pluto. They're interested in unique subjects together. Not only did we see with the art, but we did see a couple of times like the whole spiritual mystical element. It's a therapist-patient relationship. I mean, they do share that similar life experience. It's a very similar and unique life experience. Get to the bottom of things quickly. They share a lot together. We do keep seeing they are very much open with each other. Nick is fascinated by Miley's depth. They tell each other their deepest secrets. Both heal from past relationships. We see again, I'm really not sure what this could be relating to. Like, I just have to assume it's some family or friendship thing. Just based off their ages, like, they don't believe they had any previous serious relationships. This one doesn't seem too serious in itself, but, you know, previous to this. They resolve deeper matters together. Miley opens up Nick to new ways of thinking. Not surprisingly so, he seems to be very open to learning from her. Miley appreciates Nick's humor and Nick uplifts Miley. We did see the whole element where Nick makes Miley stay. So I assume like Miley does appreciate the sort of like more light-hearted side of Nick, appreciates his humor and sort of, you know, more friendly side. So now it's time for Venus. We have Miley's Venus in Capricorn and Nick's Venus in Libra. These are both cardinal signs. They're committed to each other. They both put effort here. I see that. There's nothing to indicate otherwise. Nick charms Miley. Miley sees Nick as a secure partner. This is interesting. This is probably why there is that element of those domestic desires together, desires to have children and live together. You know, Miley seeing Nick as a very secure person, but on Nick's end, it seems to be, maybe we'll see a bit more from Nick's end, but from Nick's end, it does seem to be he does put Miley on a pedestal, really values her intellectually as well. Nick feels at ease with Miley. That's another reason. They're very comfortable with each other. Living together would be probably no problem on their end. Nick's adaptability brings strength here. I believe we did see before how they do adapt to changes really well in their relationship. And there's mutual respect. Miley's Venus in Nick's 6th house. Miley feels they don't have much in common. I assume this would be initially because we both see a lot of like how they do have shared common interests. So I assume this would be when they first met. Neither sees the other as their type. Nick senses Miley isn't really into him. This is what I've been saying. I feel like in the beginning of the relationship, it was very much Nick being very interested in Miley and not being so much reciprocated on Miley's end. It's a helpful and productive relationship and together as a result of duty obligations. I don't like this being thrown in. I hope this is a one-off thing and we don't see anything else connected to this because honestly, this reading doesn't seem so bad so far. Nick's Venus in Miley's 6th house, so this is a repeated overlay, just inverted. So Nick feels they don't have much in common, and Miley senses Nick really isn't into her. I don't believe that. I feel like that would just have to be because Nick is hiding it. Potentially he could be we did see that awkward element. Potentially that would be it. You know, he is just that awkward. Miley's Venus conjunct Nick's Uranus. They share unusual interests. We see again initial attraction fades. I assume because they were very young when they met, potentially this would have been a deteriorating factor in the relationship of why they broke up and are no longer together. Miley is attracted to Nick's unpredictability. I also want to skew this. I want to skew this one a bit because we saw how Miley feels very secure around Nick, but also that Nick is very adaptable. So I assume that she's attracted to his adaptability more so rather than his unpredictability. Miley's Venus conjunct Nick's Neptune. Miley is sensitive to Nick's needs. Miley sees Nick as a soulmate. So I do think they did feel very strongly about each other. So it's very clear that they felt very strongly about each other. They took each other very seriously, it seems like. During the energy when they meet, Miley finds Nick very attractive. So it seems like on both ends there was that, not really my type, but I do find them attractive. Miley may project her ideals onto Nick. Interesting. Nick may ghost Miley. That's kind of surprising just considering he seems to be the one really pining for her rather than the other way around. Nick initially encourages Miley to have an idealized image of him. Over time, Nick feels pressured to keep up with Miley's image of him. I have to assume this was a deteriorating factor. And the whole thing, it seems like Nick was really pining for Miley, was really into her. I assume that's why he was pretty much okay with, you know, Miley having this idealized image of him or whatever image of him she had. I think that's why Miley needs to learn to look past Nick's faults, which we did see on the other end with Nick needing to learn to look past Miley's faults. I assume this is just an element of their age. Miley appreciates Nick's imagination. It's not a practical meeting. It's not a practical relationship. So I hope this is to indicate that they were not a setup couple. We did see before that they were together as a result of duty and obligation, but nothing else has come to support that, so hopefully. Nick is easily charmed by Miley. I think we did see this, that Miley was easily charmed by Nick before as well. It's a spiritual magical meeting. Nick's Venus square Miley's Uranus. They feel they cannot rely on each other. I wonder in what way, because we did see they're very supportive of each other. They're very comfortable with each other. Trust seems to be a big element in this relationship, so I'm not sure how. The only thing I can think of is emotionally so. They're separated at times. I think we have been seeing this, which makes sense with their lifestyles and careers. Miley resents Nick's desire for commitment. This is interesting because on both ends, including Miley's ends, like we have been seeing, they do there is an element of them taking each other a bit more seriously. And on the whole, like their domestic desires together. This could be possibly Nick wanting to like speed up that sort of part of the relationship, or wanted to sort of like lock it down with Miley. We did see Miley finds Nick very secure and foresees him as a soulmate, but potentially she just wasn't ready to fully commit yet, which Nick wanted. That's what I can think of, just linking everything together. There's an instant attraction, an emotional roller coaster. Okay, so I feel like it's just the emotional relationship that's a bit off. It's not a stable relationship. Nick's Venus square Miley's Neptune. Nick needs to make sure he falls for the real Miley, not his illusion. Both these two... I mean, I think it is good that both of them saw each other the same way as the other, if that makes sense. Miley needs to be careful to keep promises and not make huge ones. Miley has a hard time dealing with Nick because he doesn't want to see reality. So it seems like both of them are frustrated with like their sense of reality. Like we did see how Nick is frustrated with Miley because she doesn't want to see reality. So they do continue to see each other the same way. But I feel like just with what we've just seen in the last couple of aspects, I feel like their relationship is very indicative of the age they were. So now it's time for Mars. So both their Mars signs are in Cancer, so they are possessive of each other. I think we did see once before. They may be manipulative with each other. With what we've been seeing, like how they both have idealized images of each other and they're both kind of encouraging of that in a weird way, makes sense. Solve problems peacefully together. We have been seeing that problem solving is pretty decent. It's a passive aggressive relationship and they want to have a baby together. So back it again with the desire to have children together. Miley's Mars in Nick's 12th house. Nick feels uncomfortable around Miley. I assume this will be initially so. Miley brings out a hidden side of Nick. Miley feels drained by Nick. I assume this will be related to like his desire for commitment. Maybe he was really pushing that and Miley wasn't so into it. Nick wants to protect Miley. Relationship formed from having to protect one another. I wonder if anything happened, like, because just with the industry they were in as children, I wonder if anything happened there because we have been seeing they're very protective of each other. They trust each other very deeply. I wonder if that's how their bond really formed. Just conspiring here and theorizing. I just, just with the nature of the industry they were in at the age they were in that industry, Nick wants to protect Miley, we see again, and Nick sees the more fragile part of Miley. Yeah, I really feel like we have been seeing there's a depth to this relationship. I feel like that's where it roots from. I wouldn't be surprised if something happened where potentially Nick, I don't know if he, Miley just opened up with him or he saw something and witnessed something. Nick's Mars in Miley's 2nd house. Nick triggers Miley's possessiveness. Miley is more materialistic in this relationship. Going back to how I believe like the excessiveness was an issue in this relationship, and we saw a few times that they make money together. Nick is patient with Miley. Nick is sentimental with Miley. Nick treats Miley as an object. I assume this would be more, I don't feel like this is in a malicious way. I feel like this is just like in a teenage boy crush kind of way. Miley tends to be more masculine in this relationship. I'm not sure how. I assume this would be in the stereotypical way where like a man doesn't want commitment but the woman does and the man resents the woman for that. I assume this would be that way. Miley's Mars sextile Nick's Jupiter. Nick encourages Miley to assert her independence. They're competitive. We see again Miley feels more energized by Nick. They have a lot of fun together. They encourage each other to engage in controversial behavior, not surprisingly. So they're young kids in Hollywood. And they like to try new things together. So that was the final aspect. I hope you guys enjoyed this reading. If you did, give this video a like, subscribe to my channel for more videos from me, click the notification bell so you can get notified when I upload, and yeah, see the video straight away. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say. I will see you guys next time. Bye!